Hi, my name is Joel, and today I'm gonna punish myself. Hi friends, welcome back, and I am so excited to be making my second video on this BookTube channel. The response to my BookTube newbie tag has been overwhelming, and I just want to say thank you so much for all of your support. And I think we're now at 2,000 subscribers, and that it blows me away, and I just want to say thank you for everything, and I truly feel the warmth and the love from you all, and hopefully we'll be able to continue building this community together. So for today's video, recently on BookTwitter there was a discourse called hashtag publishing paid me, where authors would share how much advance they got paid for their books in order to show the discrepancies between authors of colour and white authors. Via this hashtag, it was pretty clear that authors of colour were being paid much lower advances than white authors. One such example was Cape May by Chip Cheek, which was paid $800,000 for its advance. There is a lot of things that go into how an advance is paid, and I did do a bit of research into Chip Cheek. I keep almost calling him Chip Creek, I need to stop. Chip Cheek was originally published by Scion Books, but a lot of the foreign rights were already sold as it was published. Now, using the Inquisition, I'm going to be reading a few notes that I had written down. Laurie Perkins had replied to Chip Cheek's tweet about how much she got paid and said that she did her own research, so I'm going to be using her tweets to explain. Cape May was one of the first books published by a new imprint. They had a flush of money that they could use to acquire these books. He already had an established agent, and he was part of a literary community. He'd already published a number of short stories in numerous places, so basically he'd already had a platform ready to go. He also had went to the writers' workshops and conventions as well, and just reading that, it already shows a lot of the privilege that Chip Cheek has as a white writer, because a lot of authors of colour aren't given the exact same opportunities. Like, I know Chip Cheek had an MFA, he also was able to make connections within the publishing industry quite easily, which probably contributed to how large of an advance he got. But like I said before, it gives him privilege as a white writer. Like Laurie says, in a book's advance there are so many elements that we don't know about, but N.K. Jemisin, who was paid less but has a more accomplished book series, N.K. Jemisin quotes that advances indicate what the publishing industry thinks the book will do, what the publishing industry thinks readers will like in the future. Basically, publishing industries pay advances in accordance to how much they think they can sell and market this book. N.K. Jemisin then writes that publishing industries don't really know how books will do, because sometimes books that have lower advances could be more successful than books that have higher advances, and that it's basically a game of like trying to figure out the sweet spot in trying to pay an advance that's worthy of the book. But of course, she writes that they're going to compare N.K. Jemisin against other black authors, because obviously she is a black author as well. Black writers are always being pitched against one another. You have so many white writers publishing these same kind of stories, but then black writers, when they try and publish, let's say, J. Cole's published Tyler Johnson Was Here, he's always compared to Angie Thomas's The Hate U Give, because they're both stories about police brutality. Like, they're always pitted against one another instead of working together, celebrating both of the books as they are, which should happen. But yes, N.K. Jemisin then writes that it's not overtly racism that pays black writers lower, it's implicit bias and it's unconscious bias that contributes to how low publishers are paying people, and I think that it's something that needs to be discussed and talked about. She writes that advances are also indicators of how racist the publishing industry can be, and that publishing industries need to work better in order to pay black and minority ethnic writers more fairly and more accordingly. So, now that we got that out of the way and we got to talk a little bit about publishing paid me, I really wanted to know why Celadon Books thought Cape May was worth $800,000 and why they thought they could sell so many copies, basically, of this book. So, I didn't want to read this alone. I was told by a few friends that I would basically end up like the woman on this cover. Dead. So I didn't want to read this alone. And so I roped my childhood best friend Tia into reading it with me, because I also made her read other books that she also hates me for. The picture you're seeing at the moment, it's the only one she would allow me to post because it basically represents most of our friendship. We're not drunk in that photo, I swear. We started a Google Doc and we got into writing our like initial thoughts about like the book's premise. We're both not really excited for it because we browse the men writing women Reddit a lot, and I'm really not looking forward to it. Of course, we had to go look at Goodreads. Goodreads is the one place where you want to go for some reviews. We found a few of our favorites. I'm gonna read some of the reviews from the Inquisition that we placed onto our Google Doc. Nancy said, "It was trying to be all things. It was not anything." So I'm about to read a blank book, basically. Meg said, "Dreadful. Just dreadful. One character has breasts that light up the room. Another has breasts that glow. That kind of nonsense. This book was so bad, I'm writing my first bad review. Dreadful." God, breasts that light up the room. Miri said, 3 words. "This book sucked." With 3 exclamation points. Wait, I wonder if she's queer. She did multiple exclamation points. Janine Dotson rated it 1 star. They said, "I cannot in good conscience recommend this book. I generally love any book I read. I find something that works for me. This is pure trash. I cannot find a good reason to tell you to read it. I am sorry." Janine apologized for not being able to tell us to read this book. She apologized for Chip Cheek's writing. She apologized. Oh, Janine, I'm so sorry I'm about to read this, even though you told me not to. Donna says, "I felt the strong urge to bathe in disinfectant after reading Cape May." Talk about a totally disagreeable book. And then we finally got to the point where we started to discover something. I'm gonna read Samantha's review because I think this one sums it up quite well. "Is this Gatsby fanfic? With a side of soft porn? 50 Shades of Cape May? I really thought I would enjoy this based on the premise and setting, but it's essentially a stale loss of innocence story spiced up by the incessant use of the word penis. Gatsby fanfic." I studied The Great Gatsby at A-level, and I liked The Great Gatsby. I even wrote a fanfic called The Gay Gatsby because it was obvious that Nick and Jay were just more than friends. They fucked once or twice. I was then more intrigued into Cape May because if this is Gatsby fanfic, maybe I might enjoy it. Although this is also has breasts that light up the room. So I don't know. I am not looking forward to reading this book. I'm not looking forward to reading this book at all. I just feel as though it's not going to be a pleasant reading experience for me, but I am looking forward to reading it with my best friend and seeing what she thinks about it and seeing how many memes we can make out of this book, actually. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing all of like the lines and the funny moments that happen in this book. I mean, funny as in the writing is funny. And I just want to see why they paid $800,000 for this book. See if there's just something in here that, like, it's time to start Cape May. Wish me luck. Today, it's my funeral. Wait, is that the post? I have some books to unbox. I can't really use my earring for it, and my sword is not sharp enough to do it. So, ooh, okay. Harper Voyager sent me 2 books. The Court of Miracles by Kester Grant, which I am super excited for. This was actually one of the books I was looking forward to buying. And then next we have Kingdom of Souls by Rena Barron. I already actually own a copy of Kingdom of Souls. I bought the Illumicrate exclusive edition from Depop. I could probably also give this one away potentially to another reader in the United Kingdom. Thank you so much, Harper Voyager, for sending me these books. I am super appreciative and thankful. I cannot wait to delve into these worlds and explore them. But yeah, just look how gorgeous these covers are. They're good shit. Now that we've got all the good stuff out of the way. I'm 4 chapters into Cape May. Tia and I had decided that we were going to have our own tabbing systems. I decided to tab for sexism, bad writing, the disgusting moments, whenever something good happened, and every time I put the book down. This book is so bad. It's my funeral. I'm going to die from reading this book. I'm just speechless that this got $800,000 for its advance. Like, the Mail on Sunday quotes that it's powerful and devastating. It's powerful and devastating to my brain cells. Now, we're gonna look at the notes that Tia and I had made for the first 4 chapters. We both thought that Chip Cheek could write descriptively, however, he does suffer from writing from a male gaze. This book is described as an erotica. It's erotic. This has the sexual tension and the sexual appeal of a wet wipe. The first time they have sex, they finish within seconds. I'm surprised Effie didn't leave him after that. Also, Chip Cheek introduces characters in the text that basically have no relevance. Like, he introduces them by name, gives them an identity. They're there for like 30 seconds and that's it. Like, they're there for like a chapter and we don't really hear from them again. Like, we have our 4 central main characters, Henry, Effie, Max, and Clara, but that's it. There's a Karen that's introduced, which basically makes sense because of this book. Also, these characters aren't racist because they support the integration of schools, which was mentioned out of nowhere for no apparent reason. And within the same exact chapter, the main character Henry refers to a woman as Oriental. Later on, describes someone as whether they're Mexican, Arabian, or maybe just Jewish. $800,000. What's not clicking? What is not clicking for me? Because I do not get how this book is worth so much money. I tab this book every time there is sexism. There are so many red tabs that I have almost run out. I had to buy 2 more sets of tabs so that I knew I would have enough tabs to finish this book. I mean, at this point, I don't even know if I want to finish this book because of how bad it is, but we're gonna see. The main character, Henry, loves to degrade women, whether it's through their intelligence, humour, or just straight up sexism. Chip Cheek has women fighting against women, calling them sluts and harlots. He talks unpromptly and weirdly, actually, about women's breasts. They're mostly not even his own wife's, although that could also hint to his infidelity later on in the novel, as hinted about in the synopsis. It's literally his only personality trait. His only personality trait is being horny and talking about breasts all the time. Chip Cheek, I don't think, understands women's anatomy because he mentions the whole top half of Effie bouncing. Tia and I had then began to say that, does Chip Cheek think women are like half slinky, half human? And then we then compared Effie to the Slinky dog from Toy Story. And then 11 o'clock at night, I got an email from Tia with basically something that completely changed my life forever. Okay, so the whole reason why I wanted to read this book was because of the mention of breasts that light up the room. And I finally got to that part. And all I could think about was those fembots from Austin Powers who had the guns for breasts and then they like shake. But instead of guns, I thought of light bulbs. Is that what Chip Cheek was imagining, envisioning something? $800,000. Oh my god. Right. So we're at a party and basically everyone gets drunk off gin which is basically the only thing that has kept me going through this book. The constant mentions of gin. I now want a bottle of gin to get me through the rest of this book. Like, Henry basically hears people having sex whilst he's peeing and decides to go find his very drunken wife and talk about how he wants to push her over the sofa and violate her. $800,000. But now I'm gonna read a few of my favourite lines from the text so far. But the book, so far, was a thumping bore, and he couldn't read more than a few sentences before his mind began to wander. That is me reading Cape May by Chip Cheek. $800,000. Occasionally, Clara made the mistake of trying to tell a story of her own in Max's way, and the laughter would be forced. But then Max would come to the rescue, making a joke of it that was his own triumph. So basically, women can't be funny. $800,000. What's not clicking? What is not clicking for me? Today is our 1-week anniversary. She smiled at him. Don't interrupt me. Effie doesn't care. Effie does not care. She literally just wants to leave. I can see the link to The Great Gatsby through hedonism and how all of these characters are having lavish parties and all these characters are seeking forms of pleasure. However, I am getting no pleasure from reading this book. I am only getting depression. There are 16 chapters. I am not looking forward to pursuing this world. I do not care about the characters. I do not care about the world. The one point where I thought the story was about to get interesting was when they found the H.P. Lovecraft's book, The Call of Cthulhu, and I thought, oh, maybe it could take a turn with this book. But no, all I wished for was some eldritch horror to raise themselves from the sea and just swallow everyone whole, and that would be the end of the book. I would literally be so happy if all of these characters would just die. This boat? Does this boat crash? Does this boat go into a whirlpool and go to the depths of the ocean where all the characters will drown? I will hope so, because $800,000. I just think that, you know, I just think there was so much left untouched by Cape May. Like, I can see the potential for a really great story in Cape May. However, it just lacks depth. A lot of the characters are two-dimensional. Effie has a slight third dimension, like I'm going to say like a 10% third dimension, but it's not great. It's really not great. I'm just not gonna give up. I'm not gonna give up, but we're gonna see what happens and hopefully it'll be fine. It'll be great. Maybe the story will pick up. I've literally changed my seating position on this chair 3 times because I cannot find a correct seating position. So yeah, I'm gonna chat back in at after chapter 8, and hopefully I won't have died and will not be attending my funeral. But, you know, if we do, I'm dressed and ready for it. Why have I done this to myself? So I was planning on stopping at chapter 8, but I read until chapter 12 because really there's no points of discussion between chapters 5 and 8 that are worth talking about, apart from the fact that Henry cheats on Effie with Alma. That is literally the only thing worth noting in 4 chapters. 25% of this book, because the other moments are basically leading up to the infidelity. $800,000. Oh, and it's not even the fact that, like, Henry doesn't regret cheating. Oh, no, no, no. He regrets cheating on Effie, but then continues to cheat on Effie with Alma, fall in love with Alma, tell Alma that he loves her, and that he wants to run away with her. Suddenly, she's now a character of prominence within the novel. Like, it just... make it make sense. It would have been better writing if he had just kept it within the 4 characters as opposed to just introducing a new character into the dynamic. So yes, Henry and Alma plan to run away together, but then, you know, Alma decides to go to New York on her own and leave Henry where he is, and Henry's just like, ah, I knew she was gonna leave me, you know. I guess I just have Effie now. It's just nothing. It's just nothing. Like, Chip Cheek has these plot points and he could do so much with them, and I think that's where Cape May fails for me, because there's so much potential for this story. Like, they mention Lovecraft so many more times afterwards, and although Lovecraft is quite problematic for his cat, maybe did something like thrillery with it. I think it would have just stuck so much better. $800,000. The sexual descriptions in Cape May make me uncomfortable. They make me nauseous. And I just don't want to see it. I'm not here for it. I don't want to see it. So then between chapters 9 and 12, we have an orgy that happens between Clara, Max, Effie, and Henry. I want to unread that orgy. I want to unsee it. It is one paragraph. He describes this orgy in one paragraph, but this paragraph lasts 3 pages. How formatting, paragraphing, make sense. My Cape May tabbing system has evolved since then. The green is now for every sassy reply and gin and tonic mention, and the red is now for sexism and toxic masculinity, because we got some of that in this as well. So just when I thought we were over the sexism, because between chapters 5 and I think 11, we had no sexism whatsoever, and I was shooketh. But then I got to chapter 12, late chapter 11, entirety of chapter 12, and Henry gaslights, acts possessive. Effie obviously had sex with Max in the previous chapter. Henry had sex with Clara, and now Henry is saying to Effie that suddenly she is in love with Max because she enjoyed the sex, because Max was able to make her moan while Henry was never able to. $800,000. And Effie is just like, I feel disgusted with myself. She feels like she's been unfaithful. She doesn't like what she did at all. Like, she is truly repentant, and Effie is probably one of the most three-dimensional characters in this text. It's gone up from like 10% to about 20% at this point, because I like her. I like Effie. She really suffers with Henry, and she just needs to get away from him as far as possible. Oh, and then we get to the toxic masculinity. Now, as a boy who is quite effeminate myself, like, my relationship with toxic masculinity has always been a prominent one, and Cape May likes to purvey a lot of toxic masculinity, because Henry suddenly feels like he's less of a man because he cheated on Effie, but then he's like, oh wait, boys will be boys. $800,000. He then goes on to say, name a man who has never... Name a faithful husband who has never... And he's just trying to say, yeah, all men cheat. All men cheat. And so I shouldn't feel bad about cheating. Yet, when my wife sleeps with another man, I have to make her feel as horrible as possible. $800,000. The one thing that I do not get about Cape May is, why do Alma and Effie like Henry? He is literally the most plainest white man I have ever seen in my life. You could literally replace him with a plant, a cardboard cutout, or even a sausage, and you would get the exact same plot. The exact same plot. Because there is nothing interesting about Henry whatsoever. I do not know anything about him. Although there is one line, well, 2 lines, but this is the first line. There is one line that I screamed at. It's when someone says, she is white trash, and that is all. Like, that was just, oh, I was like, this book is trash, and that is all. So, we get to the end of chapter 12, and we're thinking Henry and Effie's relationship is slowly, like, going back to normal, even though their marriage should definitely not exist anymore. But then, Alma comes back. Alma comes back, and she's just like, Henry, my love, did you miss me? And I screamed. Tia and I screamed. Like, this is the first point in the text that things have actually gotten interesting, and we're actually looking forward to seeing the aftermath and what happens next. Although, I know I'm going to be disappointed, because Cheek has disappointed me so far. Much like Henry and sex. Although one thing that Tia and I hope is that Effie goes full cell block tango on Henry and kills him, because he does have it coming. He does have it coming, and he only has himself to blame. And if you had been there, if you had read this, I'm thinking you would have thought the same. One thing. I actually think Alma and Effie could make a good couple. If they had repaired their friendship and then it delved into something deeper, like a sapphic romance, I think that would have made the novel so much better, and it would have been about Effie's temptations in the marriage and how she actually doesn't want to be in this marriage anymore because she's in love with a woman, and then they run off together to New York, and that would have just been so much better. Although, this is a straight white man writing this novel, and if it was about a lesbian relationship, it probably would have been fetishized. Now I'm about to read the last 4 chapters of Cape May, and the last 4 chapters are spread across 30 pages, and it dulls my brain because the pacing in this novel has been really whack. Like, the first 70% of this novel has been utter trash. But yeah, I am excited to see how this ends, just because I'll finally be done with this book, I'll finally be free from this book, and I will be able to pick up another book straight away because I am not waiting. I'm just gonna finish it, I'm gonna record my reaction, and I'll be done. I was disappointed. It had the option to be great. I would have given it 2 stars if it ended great. Alma is basically with nothing. She has some impactful lines, it was great, and then she admits defeat and walks away. Effie finds out about the affair, she runs away, Henry tries to get her back, her father threatens to shoot him, I wish he had shot him. It just seemed like their marriage was over, but Effie goes back to him. They have kids. She dies like years and years and years and years and years later. And it's awful. $800,000. Going back to what N.K. Jemisin had said about advances and how publishers pay for how much they think they're able to market and sell this book, it kind of makes sense why they gave $800,000 to Cape May, because the imprint focuses on books that are literary fiction, and Cape May is literary fiction, although bad literary fiction, it's still literary fiction, and they can market it to their target demographic, which is probably straight white males, and I don't know if they'd enjoy this book. I don't really know that many straight white men. So I want to end this on a positive note because, you know, although I've been mainly negative in my review, I don't want this channel to be filled with a lot of negativity. I am going to talk about some of the books that I'm going to be reading next, and I have a lot of them. So we have Woven in Moonlight, The Henna Wars, The Silence of Bones, We Hunt the Flame, The Court of Miracles, Kingdom of Souls, and finally, Gods of Jade and Shadow. So I definitely think there's other books that I should have read instead of reading Cape May, but I'm not mad about the experience. Like, my best friend and I got to read this book together. It was a fun reading experience, although I now do believe she hates me more than ever before because I made her read this. Although I have also promised her that she can pick the next 2 buddy reads because I picked the last 2. So I realized I never actually filmed an outro yesterday, and I'm just gonna do it now. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and you can do so down below. If you're new here and you haven't subscribed yet, consider clicking that subscribe button so that you're notified whenever I upload next. This week's shout out of fates goes out to 2 booktube channels, The Book Plug and Read by Tiffany. The Book Plug recently released a booktube newbie tag, and Read by Tiffany released a mid-year book freakout tag, and both videos are so awesome, so I'll have their channels linked in the description down below, and you should definitely go check them out. I'll also have my social medias linked in the description down below, including my Twitter, my Bookstagram, my Goodreads, and my Pinterest, so that you can find me on multiple platforms, although I am most active on Twitter and Bookstagram. If you want to help fund my therapy after reading Cape May, you can do so through the Ko-fi link in my description. I am currently trying to fund a new laptop because mine is on the way out. Hopefully I won't be reading a book next time that causes me as much pain as Cape May did. So I guess until the next video, bye friends.